What's going on, everybody? You're listening to Talking Callers with your host, Money Mikes, and your co-host, KK.
Hey.
What's going on, KK?
I'm good. I'm great.
You sound like you looking good. You looking great.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah. Well, everybody, the first time we recorded, we didn't really know what we were doing, and so we still don't really know what we're doing, but we got some mics, and we can record with these mics, and so here we are. The main thing that I want to do with this podcast is educate people that don't know that there are more than just certain kinds of jobs out there.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, I had no clue that there were as many jobs available to me as there are. Or maybe there weren't as many jobs then as there are now. I mean, like podcast, you couldn't just do a podcast back then. That wasn't a thing.
No.
You know what I mean? Like,
not at all. I think there was MySpace and that was it.
There was bloggers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, where they
there
just
bloggers.
articles, you just write things up. But for the most part, like the internet was really still just being discovered back when I was in high school. But when it comes to the name of the show, Talking Callers, it is because of the different colored callers of designations of jobs there are out there. And most people that I've talked to over the last year or so while kind of inceptionizing this concept for this podcast is most people just think of white collar and blue collar. Like most people, when I'm like, hey, do you know what color collars there are out there? And they go, oh, do you mean like white collar, blue collar? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, well, isn't that all of them?
Right. Or no collar.
Not. I think 2 people knew that there were more than just those 2 color collars out of probably over 100 people that I asked.
Yeah.
So let's run through the list real quick. We got white collar, blue collar, pink collar, red collar, orange collar, green collar, scarlet collar. That was a tongue twister. Come on, black collar, gray collar, gold collar, no collar, and then last but not least, maybe even the most important for today's society, is the new collar. And these are like to the types of jobs.
It's called new collar.
New collar. No, and it's new collar and it makes perfect sense because it's like the new technology, soft skills, how people don't just go to school. They do programs, they get trained online, or they work in this new industry of online work. It's not necessarily new, but comparatively to like blue collar being first designated in 1924, this is new in comparison to when collars started becoming a thing. So when I was in high school, I didn't know what I wanted to be, and a lot of the people around me knew what they wanted to be. Now, they might not have known what color collar it was, or if that was even, if it was much of a thing.
Be a pink collar.
Yeah, I want to be orange collar when I grow up. So for those of you that don't know, orange collar is prison laborers, so that was a bit of a joke.
Goals.
I'm really looking forward to that orange collar I'm going to wear one day. Probably half my teachers figured I'd be an orange collar, but no. It just seemed like people had it figured out, and there was all this pressure. You start like getting your your high school credits together so that you could get to college, and then like when you get to college, what do you want to be? What are you going to minor in and major in? Are you going to get a bachelor's of this or that? And I went to school with kids that legit were already taking AP classes or that were getting college credit for classes while they're in high school, and it made me feel really behind.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't think that I was up to par with the rest of the kids because I didn't know what I wanted to be. But that being said, I was smart enough to know that I didn't want to go waste money on a college degree that I knew I wasn't going to use. And so I decided not to go, to college right after high school. Now, I worked a couple jobs. I worked at Arby's, fast food restaurant. My summer jobs, I worked in an electrical company, just in the shop, doing whatever a shop needs, from stocking shelves to pulling parts to getting them in the electrician's van so they can go out to the job site and do what they're supposed to do with them, to rearranging the room with all the prints in it, to helping the secretary file receivables and payables. And I learned a lot about, like, what's weird is, like, what I do now, it actually came full circle and made it so that I understand these things a little bit better because I had all that exposure when I was a kid. But after high school, I still didn't know what I wanted to be. And so I just started working. I just started doing jobs.
Want that money.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a point where, like, everything in life, like, costs money. I mean, like, there's just no such thing as a free handout.
That's true.
I mean, you can get government assistance. You can get, like, different things in that, but, like, I'm talking about, like, if you want to go and you want to do the things that you want to do, go to that concert, like, you're not using your food stamps to go to that concert, but,
That's true.
But so if you want to go do things, then you got to work. And so for me, I was like, well, let me just try some things. I tried working as a delivery driver for an electrical warehouse. That was kind of a natural progression. And I thought maybe I wanted to be an electrician. And the way my state does it, you have to get on a list, and then the apprenticeship, accepts you, and they have to accept the top of the list. So you got to work your way up the list. And at that time, it was like looking like you'd be on the list for like 6 years. So I was like, well, if that's going to happen, then I might as well just keep doing these other jobs until I get accepted and hired by a shop. And it was cool because I got to meet a lot of different people. I got to work in like different environments. I got to see what it was actually like on the job sites. Weirdly enough, I never actually went out to job sites when I was in high school because I was just in the shop. But now I'm delivering parts to these electricians on job sites, and it's like, oh, this is interesting. This is this is that. That's and it's all this different stuff. But I never became an electrician. Right? It was kind of weird.
And the point of the story is, I did not become an electrician.
Well, what happened was, so we're talking 2003 to 2008, where I'm working these different jobs, and I'm experiencing life, and I'm doing these things, and I'm just having a good time, and I'm just in my early 20s, and I'm really not focused on like a career. Like it's kind of one of those kids that just wanted to like party all the time and have fun and like drink on the weekends, go to the lake with my boys, float the river in the inner tubes,
Learn about life.
Chasing skirts, as my coach used to call it. But yeah, so it was a good thing that I did chase skirts though, because I chased you right down to California where I found you, and it turned that one around on you, didn't it? But then I found that I really enjoyed working with steel. Like I was a CNC laser operator. I cut steel with laser light. Laser is an acronym for light emitted by light accelerated by sporadic emissions of radiation. LASER, laser.
We'll stick with laser.
Right?
That was an acronym.
Yeah, it's
That's
an acronym.
Crazy.
And it's really crazy is watching it like do its it's programmed, but you gotta like fine tune it, and you gotta monitor it, and you gotta set the tool paths and different heads and nozzles and things like that for the gases and whatnot that you're cutting with, because stainless steel cuts differently than and I don't know if you know that. I said like y'all know, but stainless steel is gonna cut with nitrogen, whereas you can use oxygen to cut your regular steel, your iron.
So would you say that was more of a physical job or more of a mental?
So it was a cool blue collar type job where it is physical. It's manual labor and you're paid by the hour. But it was both. Because you had to do a lot of math. I had to learn the metric system. I had to learn. Instead of like PSI, I had to learn bars. That's just the metrics version of pounds per square inch.
Okay. So numbers definitely is needed if you want to work in the steel industry then.
Not necessarily all in the steel. I mean, you got to be able to read prints. You got to be able to do math. Read.
So 2 + 2 is not 2.
You just honestly, everyone kind of shies away from the metric system because we aren't taught it when we're younger. But the metric system I actually prefer after working in the steel industry. Yeah. It's 25.4 millimeters in an inch, or 2.54 centimeters in an inch. And so when you break down an inch, I mean, most of the time you ever hear someone break down an inch, you're like a 1/16 of an inch, right? And you can break a millimeter, or, the metric system, you can break it down to 25.4 parts, right? It's actually...
I'm not good at math, so no, I don't. Yes. I'll say yes to anything you say is the answer, because I don't know.
It's actually a lot easier to use, and that's just my personal opinion. But I wouldn't have thought that before I learned it, But that being said, you also have to pull the steel that you just cut off of the table when it's done cutting, and so you get to that manual part of the job where you're lifting hot steel that was just cut by a laser, the different parts, the skeleton, the parts that it was cut out of the steel. You got to take that out to scrap, and we're talking sheets that were 48 inches wide by 60 inches long. I think the longest that I ever worked on was 144 inches long by 72 inches wide. So we're talking 6 foot by 12 foot sheets of material, and up to 1 inch thick. So of course.
And I'm not good at math, but that sounds heavy.
Well, that's me laying down and then 2 of me laying the other way.
Okay.
So that's quite a lot of material. And so that's the part that makes it the manual labor. I had to know how to drive a forklift to be able to do that job. I had to be certified as a crane operator, a 10-ton overhead crane operator specifically was what I was certified in. And that's just to get material on and off of your laser. And then I had to run the laser itself, which is, a whole thing of its own. But sometimes when lasers are running, there's a lot of downtime, and I find myself the kind of person that gets bored and the day goes by slow when there's downtime. Even though I was getting paid by the hour, so I was getting paid either way to be there. But because I'd get bored, I would go over to different departments, to the supervisors in those departments, and ask if I could learn what they were doing and make myself, more versatile and more.
Yeah, that's so smart. That's very smart.
So being in the shop for the years that I was in the shop, I learned how to use a press brake. That's where you fold steel, you take flat piece off the laser, and then you put dies and punches in them and whatnot, and you fold steel into different shapes, making boxes or this or that, just depending on whatever the customer had ordered and they needed. And then also a little bit of TIG welding and a little bit of MIG welding, which was pretty fun. I never did it as a job. I never really did it. Like, I just kind of learned how to do it, and I had the luxury of working with some guys that were willing to teach me. One of the guys that taught me how to MIG weld could take 2 soda cans and MIG weld them together. TIG weld them together.
So what's the difference between TIG and MIG welding? One sounds more tedious than the other? Is that it, or?
Well, TIG welding is what you do with like aluminum or stainless, and it's a little cup on a little thing that's in your hand, and you have the actual material that you're adding to weld with in your other hand, and it's a lot more delicate, slow. And I say slow because I'm talking about my personal experience, but I've seen people just knock it out. MIG welding is going to be more of like your heavy steel, it's a gun, your dual shield, your hot wire.
The mega stuff.
Yeah. But so like if you're gonna be putting 2 soda cans, which are made of aluminum, together, and it's very thin material, it's actually something that I know maybe a lot of people listening won't understand, like don't necessarily get right off. But if there's any welders listening, they know exactly what I'm talking about. That is a feat for someone that is a TIG welder. I couldn't do it. Yeah. I don't know, like a lot of people that could do it, but the guy that was teaching me how to do it could do that. And so I felt like I had a really good teacher, and I took advantage of that. Have I used it since? No, I haven't. I have not bought my own welder. I don't work with steel anymore. But I told you all that because I wanted to tell you that I found something that I liked, and that's why I didn't become an electrician.
Okay, well, so the question is now, what do you like?
Like, what did I decide to do after that?
Yeah.
Well, I bought a vehicle, and I was at a dealership. It was a pretty large dealership, and they asked me if I wanted to come work for them. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, I got a job. I like my job. I'm good at what I do. One of the things that the drawbacks of working in that industry is that you pretty much can expect to have a couple weeks to a month off every winter, just because work slows down. Seasonal, it's like it's not necessarily seasonal work like picking berries is, but it's for some reason, and it wasn't every year, but it was the majority of the years when I was working in there that you just didn't have a lot of work in the winter months because construction slows down. People aren't building as much.
That makes sense.
And so you just kind of have some time off. And well, that happened to me. And it was about 6 months after this company had asked me to come work for them as a salesperson. And they told me it was commission only, and that scared the life out of me because working an hourly rate job, you're getting paid, and you know how much you're going to make. As long as you're getting your hours, right? So you can pretty much plan on exactly what you need all the time. Paid. Yeah. Commission is you're getting paid for how good you are. Mm-hmm. So either you're good or you're not, and you're going to get paid or you're not.
Just because you go to work doesn't mean you're going to get paid.
I have gone to work countless number of days through my career and not made a dime, and been there for 8 to 10 hours the whole day. Mm-hmm. Not made a dime. Sometimes even lost money because of a thing called chargebacks, but we'll get into that here in a little bit. But I had that time off, the layoff. I won't call it layoff, but that time off, and I thought, you know what? Let me see what this is like. If it fails, and if I fail and I don't make any money going into car sales, I can always go back to the steel shop. I can always go back and use the skills that I have. Yeah. And keep doing what I've been doing, and there's no loss other than maybe a little effort that I put in, and maybe my feelings because I don't like failing at things. So. So I did it. I talked with you about it, and we decided that why not? And so I sat down on the computer, I put in my application, and before I got off the computer, so within about 5 minutes, 3 minutes, something like that, the GM of a Honda store for this big group called me and asked if I wanted to come in.
So you got a job and a car.
No, well, so I got the truck 6 months beforehand, and then they offered me a job, yeah, and then, so, but I mean, just because I got an interview didn't mean I had the job. Now it turns out that I went to the interview and I got the job. But like, you gotta like think about that kind of a jump. I went from a steel fabrication shop where every night when I came home from work, I had to shower and change and shower before I could even sit on my couch because of how dirty I was from all the soot and just, you know what I mean? I couldn't wear white shirts to work and come home in a white shirt. Like I'd come home I'd come home in a black shirt because it got dirty throughout the day.
Yeah.
And to a job where you wear slacks and a button up and dress shoes and comb your hair. Like completely different lines of work.
Oh yeah.
And it was really scary, but I decided, you know what? I've always liked to face my fears, and so I was like, I can handle this. I will make this. We'll figure this out. And I never looked back, to be honest. But I went to that interview in a pair of jeans, a pair of Nike shell toes. Sorry, Adidas shell toes. I don't know why I said Nike, and a button-up shirt that I didn't even tuck in, because I didn't know how to dress nice. Like it wasn't me. That wasn't the kind of person I was. And I remember saying to the general manager as we were walking back to his office to start the interview, I was like, hey, so I don't own any clothes like I see these people around here wearing. But if you hire me, I'll be more than happy to go out and buy them. I just don't want to buy them if you're not going to hire me. And he gave me this kind of awkward look, and then he was like, yeah, that makes sense. And then we proceeded with the interview, and I could tell within about 20 minutes that I had the job.
You were
I could sense that I was pretty good. Like I was, after like the first 5 minutes, I was like, oh, I'm getting along with this guy. But at about the 20-minute mark when he asked me if I had any questions, my question was, so when do I start?
Oh, well, that's very confident of
That's
you.
how sure I was that I was killing that interview. And it turns out, what I found later is that's called assuming the close. So something that salespeople do is they assume the close. They don't ask you to buy it. They just go, so when do you want to do paperwork? So do you want to do paperwork? Or when would you like to do paperwork? 4 o'clock work best or 5? Right,
okay.
That's a difference, and it's assuming the close. The customer can be like, well, I don't want to do paperwork. Well, if you ask what time, you're almost telling them to pick a time, and they're just going to pick a time. Most people will. And it's weird, because if they actually want to buy it, that's what they'll do.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that's what I was doing at the time, but I assumed the close. I closed him on, I'm working for you. Yeah, and he pointed that out later, and I was like, oh, man, I'm natural at this. I am some kind of like natural.
This is where I'm meant to be.
I'll tell you what, first customer that I talked to, I sold him a car. And I told him in my interview too, I was because there's that stigma on the car lot.
Oh,
everybody,
greasy car salesman.
right? And I told him in my interview, I said, I just want you to know that if you ever ask me to lie to a customer, you might as well get another salesperson, because that'll be the last day I work for you.
Fair.
And he said the same thing you just said. Fair. No, it's what we want. We don't want you lying to people. I said, great. Then it looks like I came to the right place.
Yeah.
Because that stigma is the salespeople just lie.
Yeah.
Now, I have been to other car lots, did like secret shopper type stuff, and been lied to and knew I was being lied to by the salesman like in the moment, because I didn't tell him I worked in the car business,
Yeah.
And it's really off-putting, but not only when they're lying to you, it's like they don't understand. There's an energy, and if you're connected with people's energy and their vibe, the word has basically become the vibe these days. It's the vibe. Are you vibing? Yeah, we're vibing, you can pick up on those vibes. You don't have. They don't have to say anything for you to sense that.
You can sense if you're being conned.
Absolutely,
like, this person's not genuine. Like, I am totally being taken advantage of right now.
Before you even have words spoken.
Yeah.
You can sense that. Have any of you that are listening to this ever walked into a room and could feel the energy in the room and just like backed out and like, yeah, no, I'm not going in there,
Close that door.
Yeah, like no one even said a word. You're just like, yeah, nah, I'm not trying to be in here. That's for sure. We've all experienced that. I know. Like if you say you haven't, you're lying. I'm just calling you out right now. And it's the same if you're paying attention to it. It's the same anywhere you go. But that being said, turned out I was a natural. And I was selling cars. Like I said, I sold the first customer that I talked to. And
did you enjoy it?
I loved it. I really felt like I was helping her get the car of her dreams. She had never bought a new car before. And just so y'all know, I started selling new Hondas. I could sell used cars too, but I was considered a new car salesman, and I was capable of selling used cars as well. I was trained about what Hondas were, so if someone came in asking for a Mazda, I'd be like, I don't know nothing about it, but we got a couple of them out here. You want to go take a look? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because people really just expect you sometimes to know everything about the vehicles that are on your lot. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm trained on Hondas, and I knew everything about Hondas.
Yeah.
I mean, everything about Hondas. I used to make YouTube videos about, like little tricks and stuff for people. And, yeah. And I enjoyed it because it was like helping people get, like fulfill their dreams.
Yeah,
This
it's
lady,
a big accomplishment to own a car and to buy a car, especially if it's brand new.
It's the second largest purchase a person will make in their lifetime.
Oh, yeah.
The first being a house or a home. And so for those people that never want to buy a home, then a car will be the largest purchase in your lifetime. And when you take it that serious, when you look at it like that, it becomes serious, and you look at it like helping people to fulfill their dreams or whatever, because most people come in, they want that car, and they're told they can't have it by a bank if they're going to get a loan or this, that, or the other. And so that's heartbreaking too. It's like, I'm so sorry I won't be able to get you in this car today. Now, not to say that the people that come into the car lot that are just assholes, like sometimes it's nice telling them, yeah, no, we're not going to get you in a car today. You know what I mean?
Sorry, Kevin. You're going to have to go somewhere else.
Your 426 score and how you don't pay nobody and the fact you have no down payment right now, the banks are just not wanting to give you a loan. And I don't blame them. So have a good day, buddy. But like I said, those are just the people that are mean when they come in on the lot. Like some people are just mean. And because of that stigma, people look at us like we're less than human, and we had some customers the other day, and it was the three ladies, 3 generations, and the car was for the teenager, which was the youngest of the 3 generations. It was her mom and then her grandma. Yeah. So, and so I don't work in sales anymore, I should say. After about 1.5 years, I got promoted to business management, or the finance manager, as you will. So I get loans and paper loans, write contracts, help people get warranties, things like that, protection products for their vehicle. So I had a sales guy the other day that was with these customers, the 3 generation that I was talking about, and they were just not fun. There was nothing fun about it. I could hear it because I like to listen.
They just didn't want to be there.
They just were trying to be in charge, and basically what it came down to is finally when the salesman took a break from them, to come talk to management, get some numbers, and ask if what we could do if we can get her some money off, or the negotiation process. Yeah. I took that time to tell him. I says, hey, buddy, so I can see you're frustrated. I can tell your shoulders are tense. Like they're really beating you up out there. I get it. Don't take it personal, because it's not that they don't like you or they wouldn't have made it this far. Because people don't buy from people they don't like.
That's true.
They don't. I say, you're just paying for the last car lot's mistakes. Yeah. And I put it like this. I said, it's like if you ever dated a girl where you were paying for her last boyfriend's mistakes, where you had it rougher because her last boyfriend treated her badly. And he was like, yeah. And I said, so look at it like that. The last place they bought a car, either took advantage, lied, did something to them, gave them a bad experience, and you, unfortunately, are the new guy, and you're paying for it. Yeah. And once I said that, I watched his shoulders relax because he knew it wasn't personal anymore, and then he took a different approach. I changed his perspective of how to approach those customers, and guess who sold a car?
Ooh, that guy.
Absolutely. And when I met those people, there was a totally different story because he was able to go out there and understand without them telling him. Because he picked up, I told him, but now the next time he'll be aware of it, that, this seems a lot like me paying for someone else's mistakes, so I'm not going to get mad about it. Yeah. And those people were way nicer once he seemed to have that understanding. That it was unspoken, but he had that understanding. And these people left happy, and they bought a car. Yeah. And it was amazing. It was once again helping people fulfill their dream. Yeah. This was this 17-year-old girl's first car.
Oh,
her mom and her grandma brought her to shop for it. Yeah, right?
That's such a big point in life. I remember when I got my first car, that was just like I had the world in the palm of my hands in the form of a key.
You could go anywhere you wanted to.
Yes. Yeah.
Who paid for your gas?
I did.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I asked this girl. She doesn't have a job, and I was just curious. But I wouldn't ask her who was going to pay for her gas. I figured it was going to be mom or grandma. But it was like 2 mama bears, protecting the cub.
Rightfully so.
And if you had a bad experience before, you're going to be extra protective this time.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and it sounds like it was a personal experience. They were projecting and kind of showing this cub, if you will,
Yeah, yeah.
what can happen and how to protect yourself. And from my perspective, there's no point in getting upset with that. Like a lot of salespeople do.
Yeah.
And a lot of you that are listening to this have been in a car lot and been like, yo, this salesman is just rude. This salesman just doesn't understand what and it's
I don't like his vibes.
they don't. But you know, another thing that I'm not going to put it all on the salesman. I'm going to put it on the customers because customers don't tell us these things.
Yeah, there's two
We're-
sides to every story.
We're obligated. We're the ones that are supposed to just know these things. And those of us that pay attention and have been doing it for a while do know these things. We either learned it from other people or we're aware or we see the world differently or whatever it is. But if you were to just come in and talk with a customer, you would just see that we're normal, and talk with a salesperson, you would see that we're normal people too. You know, we go through the process sitting on that side of the table.
Well, I
when
think
we
that's
buy our
the thing
cars.
is that you guys are people too.
Yeah.
So most of you are really nice, fun, loving people, but some of you are assholes. But that's people in
And there are. And you got to remember, you never know what somebody's going through. And I try to keep that in mind too when customers come in or when I'm at the grocery store or if I'm in line at the bank and somebody is throwing a fit or you see on TikTok.
the Karens.
Yeah, the Karens. You know, we're all having a human experience here.
Oh yeah.
And not all human experiences are good.
No, yeah. We're all in the ocean, but not all of us are on the same boat.
Yeah, right? It's this thing where I try to remind myself of that all the time. And no matter what job I've ever had, from the steel shop where it's full of alpha males and they're all having human experiences as well, but they're going to get in your face and you're going to talk about something you don't want to talk about and you're possibly going to get in a fight right now. And then in 10 minutes, you're going to be back working side by side on the same project.
That's crazy.
You know?
Oh, that's crazy.
That doesn't happen in what I do now. Now it's a little, like the politics is a little more shady, behind your back, bus driving, manipulation.
A little bit more
Yeah,
political.
no, you just don't go talk to someone and get in their face and be like, yo, I got a problem with you because this, that, and that. Because they're just going to go straight to HR and be like, he harassed me. I didn't feel safe for my life. And then you don't have a job, right?
Here are my feelings.
But I'm not, and I don't say it that way to make light of going to HR. Because if you are getting harassed and you do fear for your life, like, please, that's what HR is there for. And speaking of HR, what a weird job. Because even the owner of the company answers to HR. Like I think that might be something I want to try soon. Is I want to go into HR.
I feel like if you work in HR, like you definitely have to have a therapist. Like
yeah, probably because you're dealing with everybody's problems.
Like someone needs to help them with their problems.
But like even the owner of the company like has to do what you say.
Yeah.
You know, like that's got to be a weird position to be in when you're just telling the owner, like, I know this is your company, but listen, you have to stop talking to your employees like that. You know, like, no, you can't call Sally fat. What? You know, like I can only imagine some HR with the owners because I've met owners. Owners are a different, like they're their own people too, and some of them are not nice. I can only imagine the nightmare an HR clerk has or an HR person has dealing with owners.
Oh yeah.
But so that's what I do. That's what I've been doing for quite some time, is being in sales and the car industry. And I think we're gonna kind of wrap up talking about what I do there. I think that it's
I'm
pretty
sure it'll
understandable.
come up in other shows.
It most definitely will. I'm gonna try to relate myself to all of our guests as we have guests going on, and I hope maybe the listeners can relate themselves to some of this or even learn things that they didn't know.
Information, yeah.
Because how many people out here are thinking maybe you're in high school right now listening to this podcast and you're thinking maybe you want to be a welder and you have a problem with alpha males. Well, you might now know that alpha males are pretty common in a steel shop. It's a heavily male dominated industry. And now you may have learned that maybe that's not where you want to go spend your days because you don't do well around people that are alpha males like that. And not that they are alpha males, they just have an alpha male mentality, or if that's even a thing.
That's
you know what I mean?
the vibe.
I hope you guys understand what I'm trying to say. Yeah, when I say that. It's just dudes that are willing to fight and not back down, you know, things like that.
But they won't talk behind your back.
Yeah, and they probably still do talk behind your back, but they're not afraid. They're not going to stop talking when you come walking by. They're just going to keep talking. Yeah.
I can respect that. I like that.
So sometimes it's better than just like dealing with some of the things, the
shadiness.
politics you work.
I don't want to hurt your feelings, so I'm going to just tiptoe around them and, you know, It's even more awkward at that point.
And that's I think that's indicative of all pink collar work, and that's what I do now is pink collar, and that's like a mixture of blue collar and white collar,
Okay.
where you work in like a service industry, but you get paid either like a salary or a commission. You work with the general public. You provide a service and goods, like
So
retail.
Money Mike's is pink collar.
Pink collar Money Mike's here. Yeah, no, I am. And I went from blue collar to pink collar, and that's a transition. All like it's just night and day.
Oh, I bet.
I could not wrap my head around the politics of this pink collar work when I first started it. But one other thing that I mentioned in the first episode that I'm going to mention again is that I do have a website, moneymikes85.com. I'd love for you guys to go check it out. You can grab free stickers if you want some free merch. I do give away free stickers so that you can slap it on a hydro flask, maybe your laptop, or yeah, I've seen them on people's cars. I've seen them all kinds of places. I've seen them places they shouldn't be, but they somehow managed to get places. So
Well, also it's really cool if you go to that website and you want to be on our show and talk about your job, you can actually go to that website and click the link and send us a little message, and you never know, maybe you can be on our show.
moneymikes85.com for everything you need to know about Money Mike's, your host here. And for all of my socials and getting a hold of us for collabs. That contact button is what she was talking about. Contact us. Even if you just have some questions.
Yeah.
If something that we talked about today you wanted a little bit more information on, or you wanted a resource for what I was talking about, feel free to get at me over there. Or you just simply want to order some stickers, go do it. I have said I'm going to count ums next time. I'm going to listen to this later. I'm going to count them. I'm going with 35 ums. Wow. Like I said, this is the second episode, and I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm trying to keep it going, and I think that we have come to the end of this one.
It's been real.
Thank you for listening. Go check out moneymikes85.com.
Yeah.
See you next week.